At this point in class, you should be to a point where you are starting to wrap up your modern day modest proposal essay. We read a modest proposal. We analyzed the persuasive techniques and the structure. And then I gave you guys a writing assignment where you had to do a little research and write your own modern day modest proposal with a modern day problem. So all of the lessons that I've done for this unit have built on one from previous. And yes, I know some of the lessons might be 20 or 30 minutes long, but you have to really focus in for that amount of time and don't have any other distractions. If you are confused, I made this video where I kind of went back and I explained everything, and I explained how the unit builds on the lesson from previous. And so I went over all of that in this video. If you're still confused after watching the lessons, doing the activities, watching this video where I go back and do a little review, then you need to come to Google Meet during a time when we can do some one-on-one help. So once you finish and you submit your essay, your final modern day modest proposal essay, then you are going to be doing what we call a multimedia project. So that's what I'm going to go over today, is the multimedia project. Now, do not let multimedia project, the name of this project, don't let it throw you for a loop. Don't let it intimidate you. A multimedia project is just integration of media objects such as text, graphics, video, animation, and sound to represent and convey information. So all that means is that you're just putting together text and graphics and pictures and videos and sound or whatever that you choose. You're just putting those together to make a point, to do a presentation. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the information from your modern day modest proposal. You're going to take what you put in your essay and you are going to make some type of multimedia project. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom first, and then I'm going to come back up. So right here, suggested tools for creating your project. Now, these are just my suggestions. One thing you can do is you can use Wix to create a website. And so you create a website, and on your web page, you can have different tabs, different pages on your website. You can have different pages, one page for the problem, one page for the solution, one page for how it's going to be beneficial, and so forth. So you can create a website and each web page be a different portion. You can do Sway. I know that some teachers have used Sway in the past. Now you can get to Sway by going to your OneDrive and using Office 365 OneDrive, and you can get to Sway there. So that's just an online presentation or newsletter. You can use S'more, which is an online newsletter. You can use Prezi, which does online presentations. It's just a little bit different from just a simple slideshow. And then, or you can use PowerPoint or Google Slides, and that just does a simple slide presentation. So you can use whichever one you want. Okay, so let's look at what is required for this project. So the first thing I want to talk about is the information that has to be in your project. You have to talk about the problem, you have to have the satirical solution, and you have to have the benefits. So one part of your project is going to be the problem. You're going to add facts, statistics, infographics, etc. for your problem. And any information from a source should have a citation in the project. Just like you had to have citations in your paper, you have to have citations in your project. Now, let me also say this. that you can use the information from your essay. That's really what you're doing, is you're taking the information from your essay and you're putting it into a presentation. So you can just use the facts and statistics that you used for your presentation. You could also go and find additional infographics or additional facts and statistics for your presentation. Just make sure that you get a citation for it. Okay. Another thing that's going to go, oh, and let me also say this. Whenever you're doing the problem. Now, if you're doing a website, you can have one page where you talk about the problem, and you have different, you could have a video, you could pull a YouTube video and embed it into it. You can put a picture there, an infographic, you can put just text, but the main thing is that it's multimedia. But if you're doing something like a PowerPoint or Google Slides or a Prezi or something like that, do not put all of your information about the problem on one slide. Do not have one slide for the problem and put 10 different bullet points. Like, that's not acceptable. You could have a few different slides for the problem. And focus each slide. Like maybe one slide is going to be about maybe some facts and statistics. One slide is going to be about cause and effect. One slide is going to be about how it's affecting people. So how are you going, one slide could be about, could be a personal testimony, but do not just have one big slide for the problem. Have a few different slides so that it's not all jumbled up and it's not too much on one. And make sure that you're making your slides multimedia. That means I should not see slides with just a bunch of text. They need to have some type of graphic, like a picture or an infographic or charts, or you can put a little video, some type of animation, sound, whatever. All right, so another part of the information is your satirical solution. You're going to give the solution. So you can have one part where it says the solution, and then you can have other pieces of it where you actually give the steps and details about how that solution will be carried out. And then another part of information that you have to have, another piece of information, are the benefits. You have to explain the benefits of the solution. Like, how is this solution going to help our society? How is this solution going to make things better? And you're going to explain those. And also remember, it's multimedia. So give us some images, give us a video, give us some graphics, give us some charts and graphs. Okay. All right. So the next thing so the first thing is information. The next thing I'm going to be grading on is the aesthetics and graphics, such as colors, fonts, graphics, and media. Some things to keep in mind for the color. So the colors reflect the seriousness of the topic. And what I mean by this is, if you are if you're talking about this serious problem like child abuse, do not have multicolored tie-dye background. Like, that does not reflect the seriousness of the topic. You need to have more muted colors if it's a real serious problem. Also, another thing, the colors are not distracting to the purpose. If I pay more attention to the colors of your presentation than I do to the content of it, then we have problems. All right, and then the last thing, the font background colors have enough contrast to make it easy to read. So, for instance, and let me just pull up Google Slides real quick. All right, so I'm gonna show you an example of what I mean by this. So let's look at a few different options. All right, so let's put a background on here. Let's say that, sorry, it's going a little slow. All right, so let's do the background. as a, let's do it a bright yellow. Okay. So there, say that that's going to be my, well, first off, that white is not good contrast. Like, that hurts my eyes to look at. Be better to have something. So let's look at your font color. So that yellow with the white, not so great. There we go. Okay. You can see there, you just got to kind of play around with it. All right, so let's look at that. A little bit better. But what if we were to put a really dark blue? That has enough contrast, okay? But you can't have something like this, okay? That doesn't have enough contrast. So let's look at some of the themes. Just a simple black and white theme. Let's do a new slide. Simple black and white, that works. Then you've got the gray. Let's do the main layout. There we go. So you got the gray with the black. But notice that if it's dark, you have a white. All right. Okay, so this is a dark color. It's got the white. So just pay attention to these, and you can use some of these different things. All right, so it's the same concept if you're doing a website, or it's the same concept if you're doing any kind of other tools. All right, so let's go back. So the next thing, the fonts should reflect the seriousness of the problem. So if you're talking about a serious problem, don't give me like little curly cues and silly fonts and, you know, Disney fonts or whatever. Like, it's a serious problem. Don't use silly fonts. Also, the fonts used should emphasize headings, the title versus the body, and so forth. So for instance, let's change the layout. All right, so, and I mean, this actually, you know, if you're doing something like this, it automatically does it for you. So this is going to be a title of the slide, which I'm not crazy about. All right, so, but see, it's bigger, it's bold, and then this is where you're going to put your information. It's smaller. It's not bold. Okay? Whereas the title is a little bit bigger. So you can see that whenever I look at this, and it would be the same way if you did a website or if you did the S'more newsletter, you just make sure that you have headings and titles are different. They stand out from the basic information. Okay? The font should be an appropriate size, not too big and not too small. And I put mama bear size, you know, like that idea that, you know, you don't want it too big. Let's just do this. You wouldn't want to have a title that's that big and then have your information small. That's too small. All right, so let's go back. All right, so graphics and media. You must include at least 2 different types of graphics or media, such as pictures, infographics, videos, charts, graphs. Now, that doesn't mean that you only have to have 2 in your presentation. I would say if you're doing a slideshow, every slide should have some type of media graphic, okay? If you're doing a website, each page on the website should have a few different types of media. If you're doing a newsletter, each section of the newsletter should have a few different types of media. I'm just saying, or should have a few pieces of media. I'm just saying you have to have at least 2 different types. That doesn't mean you only have to have 2 pieces of media. All right, so the graphics media should serve a purpose and be explicitly related to the information in your project. So, for instance, don't just throw up a picture of, if you're talking about vaping, don't just throw up a picture of vaping. I mean, that's not serving a purpose. Like, I want to see infographics. If you're showing us, if your slide is about what it looks like and how it can be easily shown as something else, then yeah, that would be fine. But don't just give me a bunch of pictures of what it is. Like, it has to serve a purpose. And then the graphics and media should accompany the information in your project. They should not be standalone pieces of information with no specific connection. Like I said, don't just throw some pictures up there about your topic. Like, make sure it has a purpose. All right, grammar and usage. Correct grammar, spelling, capitalization, and punctuation is used throughout the project. Your vocabulary and sentence structures are appropriate for the purpose and audience. Your goal for this is to have this done by Christmas break. If you do not finish before Christmas break, you need to finish during Christmas break, because when we come back from Christmas break, we are moving on from the modern day modest proposal.